Hello there, it is Jo from Minerva if you've not met me before, and today we're going to do a little roundup tutorial of how to use sewing machine feet. So you might have a little selection of presser foot pieces to go on your sewing machine, but you might not know what they're all for. So we're going to do a little whiz through all of the different sewing machine feet and what they're used for. It's always a good idea to check out your manual and see if you have any speciality feet that come with your machine. You'll also find that the sewing machine feet are kept in the little box. So in here, sometimes on the front of your machine, you'll have a little plastic wallet, and in there are all the little pieces that go with your sewing machine. And in there, you'll find lots of different sewing machine feet. If you are looking to buy a sewing machine foot because you want to do a particular task or use a particular sewing skill, then we always recommend and advise that you get a machine foot that is specific to your sewing machine manufacturer. They fit better, they sew better, they don't rattle around, so it's a good idea to search out the one that you really need for your machine. In today's tutorial, we're going to look at the more basic sewing machine feet, and in another tutorial, we'll look at the more speciality ones. Let's have a look at a basic sewing machine presser foot. This is my standard foot that comes with my machine. It's got a little plastic plate at the front, so that's good because I can see through it, and it's got a few seam guide markings here which I might use. I also like that it's got metal feet each end, so sometimes I use the outside edge of the foot as a guide, sometimes I use the plastic joining onto the metal as a guide. There's a gap here where I can pull my threads through, and sometimes I use that as a guide. So I like this foot, it's my standard foot, and I have it on my machine most of the time. It's got a little black button at the back, and that acts as a sort of bulky seam aid. So if I've got layers and layers of fabric, I can hold down the button, and that will help me to get over thinner and thicker layers of fabric. So if I've got thick layers of fabric, like on denim, then I can sew here where it's nice and flat with this button out. But as I come to the thicker seams, my front of this foot will start to tip up, and that's when I'll get a skip stitches because there's no pressure between the front of this foot and the feed dogs. This will just be too loose. So you have the needle down, you lift the foot up, you press the button in, and now you can see that the button is staying in. And then it flicks back out after it's gone over the bump. Here I've got an even thicker area on this flat felled seam, so I'm going to sew up to it, and as the front of the foot starts to tip up, I'm going to hold it down and I don't have any skipped stitches here where the foot tips up and the foot tips down, so this levels the foot. So if you've got a standard foot with a little black button on, that's what it's for. Have a look in your feet that came with your machine. You can also get a standard foot that has a very small hole there, so just a single aperture for the needle to go down rather than this longer space. If you've got quite a big space here, if you're using finer fabrics, then the needle can push the fabric down and it can all get caught and damaged on the feed dogs and through this hole here. So you can get a standard foot that's much more solid. It's more of a plate there with a little hole in it, and that's for using with finer fabrics, but it's still a standard foot. This is my zigzag foot. It has quite a wide opening here, so you can do quite a wide zigzag, and it has a wide opening here, so you can see where you're zigzagging. This is particularly good if you're doing zigzagging as a decorative stitch. And underneath there's a bit of a dip here, a sort of ditch in the middle, so that if you're doing zigzagging that's like a satin stitch that creates, as it sews, quite a thick area of thread, then you don't damage what you've just sewn by squashing it down with the presser foot. So your stitching that you've just done goes smoothly underneath the foot through that groove. It's also a good foot if you're using some of your decorative stitches from your machine, like a scalloped edge or a zigzag, where you create quite a lot of stitches very close together. So here you can see I've used one of my decorative stitches. This is a scalloped edge, which you might do on the edge of a piece of fabric to make a collar, but this is quite raised now, so with those layers of very, very close zigzag, the groove in the bottom of the foot has meant that this can go through smoothly and it doesn't knot up the machine. There is more than one type of zipper foot, so let's have a look at all the different types that you can get. You'll probably have one in your little sewing wallet, but you might want to extend your sewing machine feet so that you can put in different types of zip. I have a range of feet to show you to use with zippers. So these are both a zipper foot. So this one is narrow. You can see it's got one bar. So when you put it on the machine, you need to make sure, that's going to hit the presser foot. So you're going to make sure that you clear the presser foot, and then you can attach your zip with the teeth on this side. You might have a zipper foot with a longer bar on, and that means you can sew from either side. So this is slightly more flexible. So I can sew with my teeth on this side, or I can sew with my teeth on this side. So I'm able to sew from both sides of this zipper foot. It means you can get closer to your seam line because there's nothing in the way. The only problem I find with these is, even though you can get your stitch really close to the edge of the foot, you've still got this bit behind that gets in the way. So this sort of still drags the end of the zipper. So I'm getting really close, but this bit is getting in the way. The foot I like to use the most for putting zips in is an adjustable zipper foot. And the reason I like this is because I've eliminated that shank piece at the back. So now I've got a completely clear run, so nothing is interfering or dragging or catching bits of my fabric or work from behind. And here I can move my foot along. So if you can't change the position on your machine of your needle, you can change the position of the foot instead. You always have to check you've got clearance. But now I can run the edge of that zipper foot in a very precise place, and my needle is following right alongside. The great thing about this foot is that you can buy it separately, so you don't have to buy one that fits your manufacturer's zipper foot. This one fits on most machines. Here's the back, so I can change the position of the foot. That is my favourite zipper foot. Finally, I have an invisible zipper foot, and on the bottom there are grooves that the zipper teeth run down. A little point at the front which peels the zipper teeth away so that you can get really, really close. It's a small hole so nothing gets sucked down into the foot plate. The zip can stay nice and flush on the top. So here's just a little sample piece. So here's the zip. The teeth are facing in towards the garment. This is the outer edge. So the zipper tape is by the outer edge. and you can see that this little point is peeling this away, and this row of teeth is fitting into the groove in the bottom. It means your teeth are really close to the edge and you're not revealing the zipper tape. And if just the teeth are available to be seen, then it's much more invisible, because when the other set of teeth match there, that little bit of fabric fold on this side and the other side will give you an invisible zip finish. Let's have a look at some buttonhole sewing machine feet. So I'm going to take a look at a long plastic one. That's for an automatic buttonholer, but you might have a slight variation on that depending on if you've got an automatic buttonholer, 4-step buttonholer, or if you're going to completely make a buttonhole on your own. This is my buttonhole foot, but I've got an automatic buttonholer, so it fits on the same as the others. And the back is adjustable, so you can put a button in the back, and that moves this little plastic bar here. There it is, you can see it moving. And then when I pull down the buttonholer, it knows how long to do the buttonhole. If you have a 4-stop buttonhole where you do the bar tack, the left side bar tack, and then the right side, then you will need to have either an open toed front, so one that doesn't have very much inside, or you can go back to using your zigzag, because your buttonhole will scoot under in that groove without getting chewed up or stuck and stopping the zigzag from going forwards and backwards. This is a buttonholer foot. It's got the bar in, the same as the others, to go into the stem, and at the front it's got two little grippers, and they hold the button. So let's see how it goes on. So you have the space here to put your button, and you place half of your button underneath so that the holes are in the centre, and you need to have your machine on a zigzag stitch. You need to know the distance between the holes, and that will be your stitch width. And your stitch length is nothing at all, because you want it to bar tack backwards and forwards without doing any distance. So I've taken mine down to nothing. It's absolutely vital that you do a hand wheel turn on this to check that your button is in the correct position. So at the moment, I'm not quite going through the hole. I am now. And I am now. So you can do it with a hand wheel turn if you feel more comfortable. And you can tie the threads off on the back, and your button is attached. It's really good if you're doing a shirt dress where you've got maybe 9 buttons or 10 buttons to put down the front of an item, or you've got lots of buttons all over your garment, like cuffs and down the front, and maybe on the back if you've got a tie or something. And then if you had a 4-button hole, then you would turn it around and do it going the other way. So that's quite useful. I don't use it very often, but sometimes it's really great if you've got lots of buttons on the front of a dress. If you don't have an overlocker and you've been zigzagging your seams, that works pretty well on a woven fabric, but check out if your sewing machine has an overcast foot. An overcast foot is for finishing the seams of your garments, so you can just zigzag them, that's fine. But if you use an overcast foot, there's a little bar in the middle, and so the threads can twist and ply over that bar, and it makes a better finished edge to stop fraying. You do need to use an overcast stitch. So first of all, put on the foot, take your threads through the middle, and then we need to choose an overcast stitch. An overcasting stitch on my machine is number 6, number 7 and number 8. It's always best to do a test piece, because if you're using stretch fabric, you might find one is better than another. Number 8 really overcasts the edge of the raw edge, and these two are acting like a zigzag stitch, but they are a little bit firmer and more secure. So it's worth investigating if your machine has any overcast stitches. It's great if you don't have an overlocker, but you want to make sure that the edges of your fabric don't fray. You can take that closer to the edge so it really overcasts the edge of the fabric. I hope today's video has helped you. You might not have those feet in your collection, but there might be something that you can go and explore and look out for, especially if you've got a project coming up that you know is going to be tricky with just your standard foot. You might want to try and find a foot that will help you do the job quickly and more effectively. Do head over to Minerva for more tutorials. There are educational ones, sew-alongs, fabric pairings, close-up look at some fabrics and how they move. They're all a great way to inspire your sewing and your next sewing choices. Thank you very much for watching. See you again soon.